Hello, everyone, and on behalf of the All-Star Football Officials Association Training Committee, I'd like to welcome you to our first training video for the 2021 season. This video is going to be all about the basics. I don't ever title the videos per se, but if I had to, this one would be titled Back to Basics. So, good news is this year we have a lot of new officials, relatively speaking. So, a lot of people that have never been on the field on a Friday night, and several who have never been on a football field at all, which is good. That's exactly what we need. And so to help kind of ease that transition for some of those officials, I wanted to put this video together. And it's going to involve a lot of topics, including pregame activities, what we're doing on the field, the conversations we're having in the locker room before the game, during the week with our crews, stuff like that. So if you've been doing it forever, 30 years or something, bear with me, but I do want to go over some simple stuff, because I know when I was first coming up 10 years ago or whatever it is, I read the mechanics manual over and over and over and had it pounded into my head. And as soon as I got out there that first Friday, I kind of forgot it all until I got to see what it actually meant to do some of the things they were instructed me to do in the mechanics manual. So we got some video of pregame on-field duties, and we'll talk a little bit about the conversations we need to have before in the locker room as well. So again, bear with me if you've been doing it forever, but again, hopefully this will help everyone. You get a little bit of something out of it. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. All right, I don't really have any video of a pregame conference at a game in the locker room. So because of that, basically this just comes straight out of the mechanics manual. For those of you who've read it or haven't read it, basically it's broken down into 3 categories, but really 2. You've got your preparation before the game, and then the conference when we're actually at the stadium. The crew conference we'll have. But as you can see on your screen here, preparation really starts earlier in the week, maybe 2 weeks before, whatever it is, knowing where you're going, what time you're getting there, referees or whoever they designate, and make sure you're all on the same page about where you're going. So verify you know where you're going. Because again, if you got a lot of new people, a lot of these schools, not a lot of them, but there are schools, well, obviously their football field isn't located anywhere near their the school itself. So keep that in mind, because somebody new may just go, let's take Doherty, for example. Oh, we're going to Doherty or Westover or whatever. Well, if they go to the school, they're going to be disappointed because there's not going to be a soul there waiting on them. So it's important, especially with new officials, to make sure we know that. Referees don't assume that the rest of your crew knows all that kind of information. So let's make sure we get all that out earlier in the week, preferably not Thursday night either, or Friday morning, earlier in the week. Obviously, we want you to be there at least an hour and a half before game time. So if we're kicking off at 7:30, that would be 6 o'clock at the latest. Some crews, depending on what the referee wants, may want you there at 5:30, or depending on how far the drive is, you may want to get there a little bit earlier to give yourself time for traffic. So again, this all goes into preparation. Make sure you have all that ironed out before Friday morning. Definitely before you leave on Friday. Also, uniforms, double check. Please double check. I have to do it 2 or 3 times. Make sure you've got the right uniform, whether it's GHSA, GISA. Make sure you've got your shoes, your belt, everything. Double check. Get yourself a checklist if you need to. Just make sure you have it with you, and don't be like I did one time, which is wash my shoes. They were always in my bag. Then I left them out to dry and ended up having to borrow somebody's because I didn't check my bag before I left again, and they were sitting at the house waiting on me when I got back after the game. So keep that in mind. But that's all preparation part of it, first part of it. So once we actually get to the stadium, what do we want to talk about? Well, the referee is in charge of it. And what I mean he's in charge of it is he's the one that has to ensure that the conference happens. Now, what he wants to do with it, what the crew wants to do with it, it's totally up to y'all. Some referees like to talk more than others. Some referees don't like to talk at all. They like their crew to lead it. But hopefully you've got an email during the week and you know coming in what your assignments are, what you'll be responsible for, and what you'll be talking about. But again, begin that as soon as y'all get there, get settled in and give yourself time to have a good pregame. And you see down here, it talks about some of the things. I'll briefly go over these. Just make sure we know what we're going to do when we get out there in the field. Who's got what responsibility. And I'll show some of that later so it makes sense. I really don't want to get into that right here. But what you talk about, if nothing else, wings, make sure you talk to each other about the signals you're going to use. Absolutely talk about the signals you're going to use, because from crew to crew that could change. Signals, are you going to use, top the hat if he's covered up, punching back if he's in the backfield, who's punching forward and punching back for balls that are forward, backwards, behind the line of scrimmage, all that. Referee and umpires obviously talking about counting the offense. Those kind of things, how we want to handle that. Deep guys, make sure you know each other's, guys on the sidelines, line judge, head linesman, make sure you get with your deep guys and y'all know, somebody may be a little under the weather that day or have a bad knee and they say, look, I'm going to do the best I can, but I may need help a spot. So make sure you know that going in. Don't, let's not run into that, on the first punt. You bust your butt and we find out the deep guys struggling a little bit, so we needed to help them. But that's something that could have been taken care of pregame. So make sure we're having those conversations. Just get on the same page with all that kind of stuff, especially if you've never met each other before. Don't be embarrassed about stuff like that. This is where you get it all out in the open. If you don't know something, ask. Please don't leave a question in the locker room. And then we get out there and we were just too embarrassed or too shy or whatever to ask. And inevitably, if you don't ask, those are the problems that'll come up out there and the ones that'll bite you in the butt for sure. And finally, the last part, we flip to the second page here. Make sure we're talking about how we're going to handle stuff. And two of the most important things are how we're going to handle penalties, who's going to cover the flags, who's going to walk. I know we have it by the book that the head linesman will walk with the umpire. The line judge should hold the spot we're going from. Make sure we're having that conversation and we know that's what we're doing, who's covering what flag, all that kind of stuff. Finally, I will tell you, please make sure we have the conversation about what we're going to do for measurements. That's something that maybe we talk about, maybe we don't, but we always need to. Nothing looks worse than screwing up a measurement. You wouldn't think that. Best way to not have a measurement best way to not screw up a measurement is to not have a measurement. But sometimes it's inevitable. We have to do it. But please make sure we have the conversation pregame about who's responsible for what, how we're going to handle that. Please have that conversation, because like I said, nothing looks worse than us coming out there having a simple measurement where all we got to do, it may be obvious he's got it, maybe obvious he's short. But we go out there, we're pulling the chain, we're not ready, we're not at the right yard line, we're crossing over the ball, nobody's got the ball, all that kind of stuff. So that could end in disaster and make you look real silly real quick if we don't have that conversation pregame. But again, just make sure going in, leave everything, leave it all out there. Talk about anything you feel like needs to be discussed, and don't take it to the field with you. Or if you do forget something pregame, bring it up on the field, whatever. Always give yourself the opportunity to have that conversation and to get the question answered before it's time for kickoff. So at approximately 45 minutes before kickoff, as a crew, you see you got 6 on field officials right here. We're going to head out to the field as a crew. So again, it's approximately 45 minutes. As an association, we decided there's a little bit of leeway, 40, 45, 30 at the latest, but as an all-star officials, we're going to do it at 45. So for a 7:30 kickoff at 6:45, we're going to be on the field, on or about the 50-yard line on the home side, ready to go. So we'll come out here and meet, give yourself a little pep talk, whatever your crew decides to do, say a prayer, whatever it is. So we'll meet here, and then we'll break and get to our on-field duties. One of the responsibilities we have as an officiating crew is to make sure that the teams are separated pregame. So we got a buffer zone. Here's the 50, it's the 45, and 45 over here. So we want to make sure that the team on this side of the field stays on their side of the 45. The team on this side of the field stays on their side of the 45. So basically we got a 10-yard buffer zone in here that players aren't allowed to be in. You see we got some coaches that are close, stuff like that. But we don't want the majority of the players anywhere on this side of the 45. It can get dicey. You get them right here, and then they want to creep a little bit closer and start hollering at each other. So just make sure, one way or another, as we go through our pregame duties, at this time, we probably have the 2 deep guys. Ultimately, that's their responsibility, is for the deeps to make sure that this buffer zone stays clear. But really, it could be anybody. Remember, deep guys got responsibility too. So as a crew, just make sure that we do have at the very least, one official right here monitoring the buffer zone pregame, especially as we got both schools out here. At some point, one school will go back to the locker room. They may both go back at the same time. It may happen, 40 minutes before kickoff. They may not do it to 20 minutes, but as long as we've got 2 teams out here warming up, let's make sure we have at the very least, one official out here keeping control and maintaining this buffer zone between the 2 teams. All right, for this portion of it, I don't really have a good video of somebody doing what I'm about to talk about, but I do have this, which is pretty close. So you see an official here moving this pylon. This is one that's underneath the uprights. Not necessarily underneath the uprights, but back there by the uprights on the end line. And remember, those 2 line up with the hash marks that run down the middle of the field. But what I do want to talk about is kind of his mindset, what he's doing here. So both deeps and wings, one of your pregame responsibilities to make sure that the pylons are where they're supposed to be. And what he's really doing here by moving this back where it's supposed to be is self-preservation. And by that I mean he's going to work. He potentially would be working this back line. And if it's up here where it's not supposed to be and he steps on it, could roll an ankle. So with that being said, as you walk around the field, you walk your sideline, walk the end line, stuff like that. Look for things that could trip you up or just be a potential hazard. So, and one of my pet peeves, if you've ever seen videos before, is these schools that use whatever they call them, the sideline yard markers, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 goal line, all that stuff. Do yourself a favor and get them as far off the sideline as you possibly can. There's nothing in the rule book that says they have to be there. They're not really all that helpful. The way fields are nowadays, they're clearly marked. So get them off the sideline for sure. Make sure they're at least out of the 2-yard belt. But some advice I'd give you is back them up as far as you can. Kick them to the track if you have to. But get them out of your way. Last thing you want to do is have players coming at you and you're trying to get out of there and you step on that, or you're backpedaling and step on that, roll an ankle, fall down, and now you're laying on your back, and here come a bunch of grown men coming right at you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So as you walk around, make sure that kind of stuff is out of the way. Kicking nets, all the stuff they like to pile up on the sideline, make sure they're out of your way and that you can work those. So good job here again with this guy getting this out of the way, giving himself room to work. So as you're walking around, make sure whether you do it first or you do it last, whatever, make sure you get this done. Now moving on to another very important part of the pregame you see going on here. We've got two officials speaking with the ball boys. So in this case, we're getting two things done. One, these two officials are checking the footballs. Make sure they're inflated. Again, we don't use a gauge like they do in the NCAA and the pros to make sure they're inflated. You're gonna have to just have a good feel. You know what a football's supposed to feel like. You know what one that's flat feels like, and you know one that's overinflated that pumped up like a basketball feels like too. So make sure they're in good shape. Make sure these white stripes you see right here, make sure they have white stripes on them. Make sure they're not super greased up or laces are torn or anything like that. Make sure they're in good shape as we're checking those. And again, another important conversation to have here with the ball boys, make sure they know how important it is that they work with you. But if you and your deep guy, tell them however y'all decide to do it. It's fine. One with the deep guy, one with the wing guy, explain to them how y'all as a crew, how y'all plan on rotating the balls in, and what you expect of them. Make sure they're there when they need to be. That way, because if they're not doing their job and getting you a football, the coach is going to be yelling at you, and then you're going to be saying, well, coach, I just doing the best I can with what you gave me with the ball boys. So, again, let's nip that in the bud early. Make sure we have a good conversation with them about the importance of what they're doing. But please make sure, again, whether you do it first or you do it last, no particular order with a lot of these things that we talk about, but make sure at some point we have the conversation. This may be a team, they may warm up with their game balls and, it's 5-10 minutes before kickoff, 10 minutes before kickoff or something before you're able to check them, or you may be able to check them, right when you get out there. But just make sure at some point we do get those checked out. All right, conversation you see happening right here with my referee, my umpire. You see, still having a conversation with our ball boys going on over here. But referee, my umpire, we're talking with the head coach. In this case, they are required by rule to talk to the head coach, so that's what they're doing here. I won't get into everything they're talking about. They have a whole checklist of what they go through, and it's pretty lengthy, so I won't really get into that here. But no, this does need to happen, and a little bit of advice I will tell you. When this is happening, everybody's got radios, like to get on and back and forth, but try to keep the radio chatter to a minimum while we're having these conversations. He may, while he's doing it, that referee may turn it off anyway. But last thing we want is him get halfway through, referee get halfway through what he's doing, get distracted because folks are talking on the radio. We're trying to get him on the radio, and he misses something, an important piece of information, or it makes him look like, he's concentrating on something else or looking at y'all when he needs to have his full focus and concentration on getting this conversation with the head coach in. All right, and so in my opinion, for the line judge and head linesman, this is probably the most important pregame duty you're going to have, and that's making sure chains or the line to gain equipment are in good shape. That includes the down marker right here. Make sure it's not torn up, goes 1 through 4, all that. Make sure the chains here. We've gotten spoiled last couple of years as fields get better, easily marked. You can see these chains are clearly 10 yards. And what he's really doing right here, remember, we've got to have the 10 yards between them. But we also have to have a piece of tape right here at the 5-yard mark. And it's really just a reference so that we'll know. Let's say we're in some hard yard line that's kind of tough to tell, but we get right here and we know if the ball's behind that piece of tape and we have a 5-yard penalty, that the penalty will not result in first down. If just the opposite, if it's on the other side of that, if it's on the front side of that tape towards the front stake, and we can kind of quick reference look down at that. We know if we get a 5-yard penalty, that'll result in a first down. So again, it's important to check. And over time, I like to check it out because sometimes it gets out of whack. Maybe they fixed a change or something, or maybe that tape went on there and it kind of slid down, and somebody tried to put it back on there and put it in the wrong spot. But clean it up, take a piece of tape with you. That'd be my advice, or get a piece of tape maybe from training staff somewhere over here, whatever you got to do. Make it look nice, something you can easily see. Turf field not too bad, but you get on a grass field that's muddy, it doesn't take long for it to be almost unrecognizable. But again, very important. I like to take, as a line judge, go over there with my head linesman, stretch it out. In this case, the guys are over there, so he took it by himself, and that's fine. Whatever you come up with as a crew, we just have to make sure it gets done. He had them stretch it out, saw it was 10, checked it out. He's talking with the clip guy, again, going over instructions. You want to give instructions to him. Looks like he got them pretty early on about what to do, how to do it, how to put the clip down, where to clip it, all that kind of stuff. I prefer old school. We used to put them up here on the line. We'd have the guy put the clip down right here, and then we back them up. Man, these fields are so easy now. I like to keep them off 2-yard belt, so we'd have them line up back here, and the clip guy would just put on from back here. I'm pretty sure the days of coming up here on the line and clipping it, moving back or over. Offenses are just too fast, and the fields are really well marked now, so there's really no need to do that. But either way, let's make sure we get this done. Absolutely have to make sure we get these checked and have a conversation with these folks pregame. If that means you got to ask the coach, hey, it's 10 minutes before kickoff, you haven't talked to them yet, we can't find them, and again, they tell you they've been doing it 30 years or whatever it is, we got to find them and have that conversation. At least make sure they're there, so that way we're not holding up kickoff to wait on the chain crew to get over there. All right, finally, kind of last thing we want to do, and I'll let this one play out. As you see, excuse me, as you see here, I've got the referee. This is the 40. This is the play clock operator. I had an issue with the play clock at 40:25 not resetting. So see the referee's having a conversation with his head coach. But that's what we got to do as we're going through our pregame duties and responsibilities. If any issues come up, we need to go ahead and knock them out as quick as we can. Anyway, this was something that had to be resolved. This is the first year of the 40:25 clock, and we had an issue with it. So they're trying to get this resolved. This is a head coach for the home team, so obviously they're responsible for this. So they're getting that worked out. That's fine. Again, get together as a crew. Typically, what we'll do is once one of these or both of these teams leave, head to one end zone. The whole crew get together in the end zone. Typically go over captains, any issues that come up. Let's make sure we get those addressed. And we'll do that. Typically national anthem and all that will happen down in one of the end zones. But just make sure that anything that come up, no matter how small, make sure we get it addressed, share that information. And that way we're not leaving our other crew members in the dark for something that could easily been addressed and fixed early on. All right, so once we've gotten all the pregame duties done, should have played the national anthem at this point, all that should have been done. So coin toss is going to essentially be the last of our pregame on-field duties. So just to kind of walk you through that, I've got film. Hopefully this helps you a little bit, but we'll go ahead and break it down. So at some point, we want our captains out here no less, I think I'm saying that right, no less than 5 minutes before kickoff. So we're right on that right here. But so as we get close to about 10 minutes, we need to be figuring out, because at some schools, seems like you got to go a half a mile to go get them. some may just stay in the end zone. Now, I've seen that before where a team just says, the heck with it, we'll just hang out in the end zone, and that's real easy. But you need to start thinking about that early on, how much time you need to give yourself, because, again, we want them here by the very latest 5 minutes before kickoff. So, with that being said, the head linesman and the line judge will be the ones responsible for that in terms of getting the captains themselves to the field. So, in this case, we have it's going to be the home team on the other side of the field. This is weird. Actually, the home teams, this is one of those stadiums where the home team is on the side of the chains opposite the press box, and the visiting team is on this side. So it's kind of funny, but ignore all that. But point being, the head linesman, line judge are responsible for getting those captains. If you see here, he's got them. We'll walk them to the back of the end zone, and then we'll move them here, and then we'll walk. But I'll go through that progression. So at 5 minutes before kickoff, we need the we need the referee and the umpire on their pylons, whether on the same side of the field or the opposite side of the same, whether in the same end zone or opposite end zones from each other, it doesn't really matter. Just depends on how it breaks down. But in this case, they were on opposite ends. They're walking from opposite ends. So at 5 minutes, the referee will begin to walk this direction, and the umpire is obviously, he's on the other end, other side. He'll be walking in the other direction, as you see here. So you see them, there they go, and see, that's a good pace. Get going. So by the time the clock gets to 4, they will be at midfield ready for the next step of this process. So the next step of this process, I think maybe, let's see, we'll let this play out, see how everything comes. So here we go. That starts at 4 minutes. So at 4 minutes, and I'll stop it here and kind of explain it. So you see, this is the head linesman. So at 4 minutes to go, he had his team on this front pylon, had them lined up, ready to go. So he had them on this front pylon. They were lined up, ready to go. In this case, this is his speaking captain. So he wants to have that conversation, and we'll I'll jump back to that here in a second. But anyway, he knows who his speaking captain is and where he needed to be based off where his umpire was, just opposite on the other side of but anyway, point being, we're going to go at 4 minutes. So head linesman, line judge, whether you say it over the radio or whether you hand up, typical what we do, hand up at 4 minutes. We know the clock's at 4, put our hands down, and we'll start walking. So at 4 minutes, the head linesman and the line judge are bringing their captains to midfield on their side of the field. And we'll go ahead and let it play out. You'll see here, this brings me to a point here. The side judge and the field judge should be with their teams. So they need to stick with the teams and make sure that the remainder of the team gets out to the field. In this case, they're out here. They're good. So in this case, this will be the field judge. His pregame responsibilities are pretty much done now. He's got the team out here. That was the last thing he really needed to get done. But as we keep it rolling, matter of fact, I'm gonna jump ahead here. So we get to here, we've got just under 3 minutes. We're getting to just under 3 minutes. We've walked them out here. All right, in this case, you see I have the referee over here, and he has the captain that's picking a wedgie here. He's got him to his right. This mechanic is something we used to do, facing the scoreboard one way or the other, but we've kind of changed that. Last couple of years, we want the speaking captain, if this is on the referee side, we want the speaking captain to his left. So essentially the referee and the line judge here would swap places, and just the opposite on this end, the umpire and the head linesman in this case would swap places. So as we walk out, the referee would be here, the umpire would be here. So, but oh well, it's an old mechanic that they were using. That's fine, but we'll still let it play out. So as we get right to 3 minutes, that's the next part of the coin toss. Why can't it play? They'll talk, introduce themselves. That was all good. Make sure he's checking the clock. Get about 3 minutes. He's going to check. There we go. We're at 3. Other side's ready, and they walked out. This is essentially, you see head linesman, line judge in this case, walk out with them, nice and, I mean, this is perfect. Walking out, you see they got their helmets in the left hand, ready to shake hands with their right hand. And as we keep on going, you see the line judge here sent the team on. He's going to walk out as far as the hash mark. Same thing for the head linesman on the other side. They're going to walk out as far as the hash marks. You're going to get to right here. You're going to turn around and stand there and look pretty, or look however they want to look. But that's it. I won't go really too much through the mechanics of the coin toss necessarily. The referee and umpire, there's a whole list of stuff they go through. Some speak more than others, but essentially we want to have a coin toss, we want to get options, and we want to go from there. So that's pretty much what it is. But main thing here, I wanted you to see the line judge and the head linesman. Walked out with them, turned around, stopped, and they're going to wait until the coin toss itself is done. Hopefully I've got, when it breaks here, he's got everything there. All right, here we go. So after all that's said and done, we're getting close to kickoff, getting about zeros. Guys, come back in together here. If we know who's kicking, we need to bring their kicking ball out and get it to the umpire. So side judge over here, field judge over here. Have the kicking ball, or have a football ready. I don't remember how the coin toss ended up, but let's say obviously we're kicking this direction if that's the way the referee's on. But if the side judge's team is kicking, he's going to bring that football out, give it to the umpire, and then the umpire can go from there. Vice versa if the options were different. So see here, this is pretty much it. We'll go from right here. Some people say a prayer right here. Some people do a little pep talk again, whatever it is. Pretty simple. That's it. Go from there. We'll break from here. You see, break from there and go straight to your position and get ready for the game. And that's it. We are all the way through the pregame now. So that's it. Again, hopefully you guys got a little bit out of it, something out of it that can help you. Maybe jog your memory a bit if it's been a while. But other than that, that's it for this video. Next one, I'll get into mechanics a little bit on kickoffs and scrimmage plays and all that. But again, hopefully you got a little bit of something out of it. And good luck. I'm ready to get out there and get it. Hope everybody else is too.